This is Speed Demon, and after 12 arduous weeks of work, she can, well, I'll let you see for yourselves. But how did we get here? We all met as a group for the first time and were given a brief introduction to the Buggy's specs, and quickly realized this module was half EE and half CS, which was a blessing for some and a curse for others. We'd also have an interview for the first time in the course, and were immediately bombarded with two new programs, Fritzing and Arduino IDE. Safe to say the odds were stacked against W13. Very quickly though, some group members were subconsciously taking the lead on certain aspects of the project. In week 4, we learned of the magical H-bridge, a tiny chip that allows us to run our motors in reverse and adjust the motor speed using pulse width modulation. The H-bridge can also supply the voltage that the DC motors need to work with the Buggy's weight. After a lot of rewiring, a fried laptop, and many failures, we finally felt like we were on the right track for the bronze challenge. That was until we were introduced to yet another program in week 5, processing, software that allows us to handle user interaction and display the reports. Its active mode relies on an event-driven model, and this program was a lot of fun to use for our GUI. However, the difficult part was figuring out communication between the control computer and the Buggy. This was probably the hardest part of the project, but after much trial and error with a client-server model between processing and the Arduino, our interactive GUI and processing could make the Buggy start and stop. Finally, it was time for the infamous bronze challenge. 2 laps around the track, plus a test of the ultrasonic sensor. Speed Demon's 2 eyes, which are infrared sensors, detect the line of the track by evaluating how much light that is emitted is reflected back. Based on these readings, which are pulled, the DC motors are programmed to move forward or stop if there's a turn. The Buggy's wheel encoders, which are the only peripherals that use interrupts rather than polling, counts the number of wheel turns, and with some math, this can be converted into the distance traveled by the Buggy, as well as its speed. Finally, the US sensor, which has a trigger pin that triggers the ultrasonic pulse, and an echo pin, which receives the reflected pulse, can be used to detect how far away an object is, and stop if it is within a certain distance. Everything went off without a hitch, and W13 finally felt like it had some indication that things were going right. After a much-needed week off, it was time to start grinding for the silver challenge, where Speed Demon would have to follow a moving object at a fixed distance, as well as have changing speeds. We once again customized our GUI to account for a speed slider, and thanks to the knowledge gained when coding the start and stop buttons, translating this to a changing speed in the Buggy itself was fairly straightforward. The difficult part is the PID. This is a type of controller. The object of control is the speed of the Buggy, and it is dependent on its distance from a moving object. The Buggy is set to be at a fixed distance from the object, and the US sensor reports how far the object actually is. Based on this, the PID adjusts the Buggy speed to either speed up and get closer or slow down and distance itself. We found that testing Speed Demon with a moving object in front of it was the best way to find the best values for KP, KI, and KD. And after 2 or 3 lab sessions, we were fairly happy with the result, and managed to pass the silver challenge after 3 attempts. This meant that we had won a ticket to the gold challenge competition. In week 10, we confronted the Husky Lens camera that had been propped up on the Buggy since the very first day. The Husky Lens contains an onboard computer vision system for object detection, which offloads the processing weight from the Arduino. It can learn to detect the objects you teach it. In an Arduino, we can work with camera data. The gold challenge consists of a harder course with twists and turns that Speed Demon would have to traverse using its ability to detect road signs. On top of that, it would be timed for speed and be pitted against the other Buggies. Points are awarded for the Buggy being able to recognize the road signs, as well as for creativity with our GUI. We had our work cut out for us. The Husky Lens was taught 4 different April tags, which are our road signs. These are turn left, turn right, speed up, and slow down. Once the tags were taught, these had to be linked to an action in Arduino, which then was linked to something displaying on the GUI. A few days before the challenge, we printed out the tags and built stands for them. We had a few issues with the distance at which the camera detected the tags, but this was solved by setting a pixel height at which they need to be. We also worked on a few different GUIs and experimented with a bunch of new features. The morning before gold, everything was looking good. We had made it to week 12, Speed Demon could navigate a track using line following, and at a speed of our choosing. Stop if there's an obstacle in front of it, follow an object at a fixed distance, and obey road signs. And to top it all off, everything was controlled and monitored from a really cool GUI. But then, the right motor broke. All our dreams of passing gold with flying colors came crashing down. We had to leave the Buggy with the experts and reluctantly packed it up for the day. Before we knew it, it was the day of the challenge, and this day was pure chaos. At some stage, nothing was working. I'll let these clips speak for themselves. Then, we tested Speed Demon on the track for so long that at some stage we were cut off on how long we had before testing. So after 5 hours in the lab, it was time for our first attempt. And fail. That wasn't surprising considering 50% of the time the Buggy malfunctioned up until the minute before testing. We reset the GUI and we had one final shot.
Oh, so we have a video as well. That's like, oh, that's
To this day, we still don't know what divine intervention made Speed Demon go straight instead of turning, but we had done it.